What's up, guys? It's Andrea and I'm back again with another video. As you guys can already tell by the title, I am going to be making the video that many of you have requested, how I take notes from a textbook. Now, I do want to say, if you have not watched my other video, I guess you could say the part 1 on basically how I study in nursing school, I would highly suggest you go ahead and watch that video first. Now, I do want to say, guys, I'm going to try to make this video as easy to understand as possible. The document that I will be working on today is Google Docs. For those of you who are not familiar with what that type of program is, it's basically just a Word document online that's easy to share with others. So that way, once I am done with the document, or while I'm actually going through this video, if you want to go ahead, click the link down below in my description box to pull up the Google Doc. So that way you guys can kind of see it better without having to rely on me making sure that I put the angle of the camera in the right focus. Go ahead and pull up that Google Doc now in the description. And yeah, let's just go ahead and jump straight into the video. All right, guys. So I want to say, just to put this out here, you only need 2 things to, make these notes. Of course, that's going to be your laptop. Again, for those of you who need, that reminder, when I read from a textbook, I cannot make the notes. I can't write the hand notes out. I actually have to type them. So if you were looking for me to do that, I do apologize again. The most effective way for me to take notes from a textbook is to actually put the notes on an actual computer. All right, and then the next thing I want to tell you guys is I just want to let you know what textbook I will be pulling these notes from. It's going to be the Medical Surgical Book Edition 9. Again, that way, if you already have this book, if you want to pull it out, that way, again, if it's easier for you to go along with this video that way, go ahead, pull out your med-surg book. And I just picked a random chapter. I'm sorry, my camera's shaking, but I just pulled a random chapter to do notes from. Honestly, I just turned the page. Chapter 12, Inflammation and Wound Healing. I'm not gonna go in order, with the way the text is. What I'm basically gonna do in this video is just pull a couple of paragraphs from this actual chapter, maybe try to pull a table, pull a diagram to show you guys how I actually put it to where it's most effective for me to study. All right, guys, so again, if you want to go ahead and pull up that Google Doc, you will see this document here that I am working on right now. So what I like to do is I don't really mess with the font, like the way what the font is. But however, yes, I am very particular about these things. I'm sorry. But my title always has to be in 14. And again, I always put a title on my Word documents. So that way, of course, I know which chapter I'm focusing on. And so, like I said, this is chapter 12. Not only do I put the number of the title or the number of the chapter, I also put the title of the actual chapter. And again, like I said, this is Inflammation and Wound Healing. And with that, that's my title. Now, it's really important for me to note, guys, let's just say this literally was legit a chapter that I needed to read for my class. Before I even get, to reading, getting to try to understand of what this chapter is about, it is super important for me to tell you guys this. Of every chapter you will ever see, regardless of what textbook it is, you will always have a section that's going to tell you your outcomes of this chapter. It is important for you to read through these outcomes, get an understanding of what they want you to extract from this chapter. And even if you want to, I know some people that they kind of pull this and make their notes from this. I, however, don't necessarily put this on my actual Word document. What I like to do, again, like I said, is just reading through it and making sure as I'm reading and going through this actual chapter that I am hitting each one of these learning outcomes. All right, the next thing that I want you guys to take note of is look throughout each of your chapters, again, regardless of the textbook, and look how they have different subtitles. I want you guys to make special note on how each of these subtitles or the different types of subtitles have different colors. So this inflammatory response is kind of like in a dark blue. What else? The vascular response, it's in a green. Also, the cellular response, it's in a green. To me, that's already letting me know that these 2 paragraphs still fall under the inflammatory response. Neutrophils, those have a different color. Monocytes, those have a different color. lymphocytes, those have a different color. And then we're going back to the green with the chemical mediators. So with that being said, that tells me that these neutrophils, monocytes, and lymphocytes all fall under the cellular response. So just trying to connect and making sure that when you are taking these notes from the textbook, you are making sure that you're putting them in the correct section as they follow. All right, guys, so with the sections that I just talked to you or pointed out to you guys, what I'm going to do is just kind of pull a couple of sentences from each of those paragraphs, so that way you guys can kind of see how I flow everything together. So again, the first thing that I pointed out to you guys was the inflammatory response, and that was the main subtitle. That was the main thing that the next few paragraphs were going to be discussing. So what I normally do, or what I would do, is I'm going to go ahead and change this font size back to 12 because I just cannot have my text size for my actual information and the title being the same size. So since inflammatory response is the main title, the main thing that I'm going to be discussing, I am going to go ahead and bold this, and I am going to underline it. So that way I know this is going to be the main topic that I'm going to be discussing for the next few paragraphs. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do notes over from where it starts from V all the way into inflammation. So I'm just going to go ahead. Again, I'm just going to read the chapter as if I was reading it on my own. So the inflammatory response is a sequential reaction to cell injury. It neutralizes and dilutes the inflammatory agent, removes necrotic materials, and establishes an environment suitable for healing and repair. The term inflammation is often but incorrectly used as a synonym for the term infection. Inflammation is always present with infection, but infection is not always present with inflammation. So if this were me, if I were extracting these notes from this textbook, if I was reading the text and making notes, for my test, how I would do this is going ahead with the first sentence. The inflammatory response is a sequential reaction to cell injury. So automatically, because my goal is to not have that many words, so what I would do is cell injury, I would make an arrow, and I would go ahead and put the inflammatory response. Now, because inflammatory response is highlighted in the text, that means that that specific term is important. It's something that I need to make special note on. I'm going to go ahead and bold inflammatory response. So that way, when I'm going through these notes, repetition to prepare for the test, I know that inflammatory response is a very, very important key term. When I also, as I told you guys before in my other studying video, when I go through these notes and I'm making my notes off the side, my handwritten notes, if I don't understand what an inflammatory response is, that is when I will go off to the side and I will write, little key terms to help me understand exactly what the inflammatory response would be. All right, so the next sentence is it neutralizes and dilutes the inflammatory agent, removes necrotic materials, and establishes an environment suitable for healing and repair. Okay, so with that, since I am still talking about the inflammatory response, I personally, I wouldn't want to go all the way back over here, because if I go all the way back over here, to me, that's going to signify that I went ahead and started an entirely new topic. Still regarding the inflammatory response, but the actual title, but this cell injury and inflammatory response, I need to make sure anything that I am discussing for this specific topic stays in this area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press enter, so that way I'm back over here, but I'm also going to press tab because any information that I'm going to discuss regarding this specific topic right here, I want to stay in this area, so that way I know, again, when I'm going through these notes, I'm still discussing this specific cell injury causing this inflammatory response. What's happening with this inflammatory response when there is a cellular injury? So again, with the goal being not having that many words, all I'm going to say, what I'm going to pull from that specific sentence is neutral. Well, I don't want it to be in bold because, again, the very important key terms are going to be in bold. It neutralizes, dilutes the inflammatory agent. Also, it removes necrotic material. And establishes an environment suitable for healing or repair. Establish is it's not a big word, but we can find other words that are straight, simple, to the point. Establish, so basically it makes an environment suitable for healing / repair. There's no need to say and when, we could just put that little dash, make it quicker, make it more simple and to the point. All right, so what we have already extracted up to this point is that cellular injury leading, causing, whatever that arrow you want it to signify. To me, it means it's going to lead into an inflammatory response. What's going to happen when this occurs? It's neutralizing, dilutes, removes necrotic material, and it makes an environment suitable for healing / repair. All right, the next sentence is going to be the term inflammation is often but incorrectly used as a synonym for the term infection. That's not important. We don't need that. That's not gonna, like I said, that's that extra fluff that they put in these textbooks that is not really important. Let me say this, for me, it's not important. I don't feel like I need to put that into my actual notes here. Now, again, because I am starting a new topic, I am not talking about this inflammatory response. Now I can go back all the way to where it starts, where cell injury is. And the next sentence is inflammation is always present with infection, but infection is not always present with inflammation. So to break this down, honestly, guys, again, less words as possible. What I would do is inflammation equals infection. And then the next half of the sentence is, but infection is not always present with inflammation. I would literally say infection does not equal inflammation. And so, because that gets us to the point to where I said I was going to stop, what I would do is, again, I like to bold. I know some people who don't do this, but me personally, I find it easier and better for me to kind of edit my notes as I go along. So with me going ahead and bolding that inflammatory response, what I would do here is what's really sticking out to me is knowing that infection does not equal inflammation. I'm going to go ahead and bold this does not right here. So again, when I'm going back and going through my notes, I know that this is really important. I need to know this because these two terms get confused, inflammation and infection. I need to put into memory that when a patient has infection, that does not always mean that they have inflammation. Okay, now moving on to the next section that I pointed out to you guys, which was the vascular response. Again, this is really important because it is a new subtitle. It's really important for me to go ahead and even though inflammatory response is up here, that's the subtitle, I need to put into my memory that the next title, this vascular response, so this is how it looks now. Right now, it looks like the normal text. But to me, I need to put that into my knowledge when I'm looking at these notes, that this vascular response still falls under the inflammatory response. So what I'm going to do is take this and bold it. See the difference in now, I'm going to go ahead and put the space so I know that it doesn't fall in with this text. The difference between, of course, you guys can see the inflammatory response and the vascular response is it doesn't have that underlining. So I know that this is the main title, but this vascular response, and when I put the cellular response, I'm going to know that these are two subtitles that fall under the inflammatory response. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just to show you guys a little bit more how I would do these notes. I'm just going to do a couple of sentences from this vascular response. And basically, I'm just going to take the first couple of sentences. So after cell injury, local arterioles briefly undergo transient vasoconstriction. After release of histamine and other chemicals by the injured cells, the vessels dilate. So again, I cannot stress this to you guys enough, with the goal being not having as much words as possible on this Word document. What I'm going to take from that first sentence is, again, cell injury. I'm going to use my arrow once again because it's leading into something, it's causing something. And as I read from that first sentence, local arterioles briefly undergo transient vasoconstriction. Basically, what I'm going to put is local arterioles vasoconstrict. So basically, guys, what I pulled from a sentence that had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 words, I got these simple, 5 words right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So something that had, again, those 9 words that I know often sometimes people try to put the entire sentence on the Word document, on their notes. That's not necessary, again, when you want to try to make it as simple and straight to the point as possible. All right, guys, the next sentence is, after release of histamine and other chemicals by the injured cells, the vessels dilate. So again, because this is a new topic, it doesn't necessarily fall under the local arterioles vasoconstricting. I'm going to go ahead and again put it back over here to where it aligns with cell injury. And so what I'm going to pull from that sentence is release of histamine slash, because again, we don't need to put that and sign or even write and out at all. I'm going to put other chemicals. And again, this still falls under knowing that it still has in relation to cell injury. I'm going to know there's no need for me to put cell injury again, because I personally, because I'm making these notes, I know how I'm going to go through and read these notes. There's no reason for me to put cell injury again. So release of histamine, other chemicals, again, it's leading into something, it's causing something. So I'm going to go ahead and just put that arrow sign, and it causes vasodilation. So vessels dilate. Okay, now I want to show you guys again, adding more subtitles. So the next subtitle would be cellular response. Now it's going to have that same bolded, that the vascular response has. So what I'm going to do there, bold it. Now I want to show you guys what I would do if I was going to go ahead and make notes on this section of neutrophils. So if I were to make something that would stick out, if I wanted to go ahead and make that neutrophil a title, which I would want to, because it is something that I know needs to stick out to me, I need to know that the next information that I would be typing regarding that specific topic, is all about neutrophils. So what I would do is, it's not going to be bolded. Neutrophils will not be bolded, but I know that it does fall under cellular response, as well as all in all, I'm still talking about the inflammatory response. So that's why, I don't know, maybe I'm going too hard on these titles, but I just want to let you know, it helps me. It sticks out to me. It lets me know that these all fall within one another. Inflammatory response is the title. Vascular response, cellular response, neutrophils is a title, but I'm still talking about this cellular response. I know, because the main issue with pulling notes from a textbook is a challenge, and wanting to know what's important, what's not important, what do I need to pull, what do I not pull, is a big key factor in taking notes from a textbook. I want to show you guys a couple of areas in this textbook, and this chapter specifically, that I would not pull notes from. So for example, I kind of moved on in the textbook. Let me move this because the lighting is not the best here, but I kind of pulled this. This is later on within the chapter. So the title, we see it's types of inflammation. The first sentence starts off as the basic types of inflammation are acute, subacute, and chronic. You do not need to put that sentence. That sentence does not need to be in your notes at all, because if you were to look a little bit forward in the paragraphs to come, you would know that you're already about to discuss acute inflammation. You're about to already discuss chronic inflammation. So there's no need to put this and repeat exactly word for word, basically acute inflammation, chronic inflammation. There's no need to go ahead and repeat yourself. So going ahead and just knowing, kind of looking forward in your text before you even begin to read, do I see this multiple times within the paragraph? Is there even a need for me to say it now if I'm going to go ahead again and say it later? Another example where I would not pull this specific information into my Word document. So exudate, I'm looking at this paragraph right here. Exudate consists of fluid and leukocytes that move from the circulation to the site of injury. The nature and quantity of exudate depend on the type and severity of the injury and the tissues involved. Table 12-2. Okay, I would take this first sentence. I would use that for sure, because I do feel like that's important. However, this next sentence, the nature and quantity of exudate depend on the type and severity of the injury and the tissues involved, table 12-2. I would not use this sentence at all. However, what I would do, guys, is I would go over to table 12-2 and I would extract notes from this table. There's no need for me to put this when I can just see, okay, what are the different types of exudate and what do they mean? There's no, like I said, the nature and quantity, that's not important to me. I need to know this is what's important. This is what I feel like, I need to put in my notes. All right, guys, and the last thing that I want to show y'all is how I would pull notes from a table. Basically how I would pull this specific, little table right here and put it into my Word document. I will say it is a little difficult to not try to copy word for word with these tables, because a lot of times with these tables, they like to get straightforward and to the point. But I know there is some words in here. I can see some things in here that I know I would not copy word for word, or I would just at least try to simplify, you know, swelling pain. The and right there, I'm not, you know, I don't need that and. I don't need to put that into my notes. So let's just go ahead and try to put this specific table, local manifestations of inflammation, onto the Word document. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, if you are looking at the Word document, I'm gonna go ahead and leave this here. You guys can specifically see what I'm talking about when you see those titles right there. I'm gonna just kind of press enter and go a little bit midway from the page. So I wanna say this, with tables, I personally feel like if I were to actually put a table here, I guess it really depends on the information given, but a lot of times when you put an actual table in your notes, that takes up a lot of space. But I will say, I guess I could understand for some people, maybe it is easier to try to understand the information when seeing it in a table. But for me personally, I extract it from the table. I'm not gonna put the table in my actual notes. Now, what I will do is I'm gonna give this little section a title, and what I would do is bold it, and the title is Local Manifestations of Inflammation. Now, I wanted to show you guys real quick, just so you guys know. So these also have titles, manifestations and cause. It's up to you in determining what the specific table is talking about to see, okay, do I want to put manifestations in my notes? Do I want to put cause in my notes? Now, with me, I am not, with me looking at this specific table, I can see a way for me to not have to put those words, because again, what is the goal? Not having that many words in my document. I can already figure out a way. I already know a way to where I can still get this same information without having to put the manifestations and cause, and I can still, you know, understand what specifically the point is of this table. Okay, so I'm just gonna take the first few little manifestations here. And so what I am going to do is, the first one says the manifestation is redness and the cause is hyperemia and from vasodilation. So what I'm going to do is kind of flip it around. Again, I don't need it to be bold, but hyperemia from vasodilation causes, so anytime I know if there's hyperemia and from vasodilation, it's going to cause redness. And a lot of times if something is, you know, specific with this little parentheses here, it has another name for it. It's really important to go ahead and put that other name. So, you know, a lot of times on the test, they may not be that straightforward. They may not say redness. They may say rubor. And if you don't know what rubor means, that could really affect you, you know, from not choosing the correct answer. All right, the next one, I had my caps lock on. Increased metabolism at inflammatory site. And again, like I said, guys, it is really hard not to copy word for word what's in the actual table, because they do get straight to the point. They do like to make it as simple as possible. But what the difference that I did here, which made it easier for me to understand, which made it a lot more simpler, is going ahead again using this arrow. It's leading into heat. And so basically what I would do is just do the same little principle here, the same little method that I'm using here. I would use it for the rest of the table. All right, guys, so that's really much it for this video. Hopefully, I'm really hoping and praying that made sense. I'm hoping that I kind of helped her, kind of showed you guys that the key factor is just knowing what to pull and what not to pull. And, you know, knowing, okay, kind of look ahead before you actually start reading that specific paragraph, that specific topic. Okay, is this going to repeat throughout the chapter? Is this going to repeat throughout the paragraph? You know, do I need to say it now, or is it going to come up again later to where, you know, I'm going to have that repetition in my notes? But again, if you have any other questions, or if you really didn't understand, or if this wasn't the absolute best, feel free to just go ahead and message me on Instagram, message me on Twitter, send me an email if you're still kind of struggling with trying to figure out how to extract these notes from a textbook. Again, you know, edit, bold, you know, there's importance in the titles. And just knowing that the goal of you making these notes is to use as less words as possible. For example, we use the arrow sign for causing, leading. Let's just say a word was increasing or decreasing. You can use up arrows, you can use down arrows. Just using, again, as less words as possible, because when those chapters start to stack up, when you have a lot of chapters to cover, and if you have, 20 pages of notes to look over for one chapter, it can be super overwhelming. But yeah, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Please be sure to give it a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Subscribe if you have not already. Stay up, stay with it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.